A former Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia. He's also a best-selling author and an award-winning...
Yes, a good friend of the show, former governor of California, one of the biggest movie stars in history, is back.
I'll be back.
Be back.
Please welcome Arnold Schwarzenegger!
Well, thank you very much for this great applause. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Look at all these people out there. That's fantastic. Where were you when I opened up my movie Hercules in New York?
But what happened? I don't know.
That movie went right in the toilet, but that's okay. No one is perfect, okay? But anyway, it is wonderful to be here. And there's some great minds here in the audience. I'm delighted to be here at the Zero Emission Conference. Now think about this. Some people talk about 33% and some people talk about 50%, but you here say zero. I love that. So I'm excited about that, and there's some real great action going on here in this room and in this building. And I always love when we talk about action, because that's what I'm all about, and that's why I did a lot of action movies. Now, talking about action, so much has actually changed in this last year. When I agreed to do this speech, I was still governor of the great state of California. And I had no idea that by the time I would give this speech, I would be in the middle of shooting an action movie in New Mexico. And I also had no idea that I would be talking to you with 7 stitches in my forehead. But that's what happens on movie sets. You see, in politics, when I was in Sacramento, that didn't happen. No injuries. I mean, maybe emotional injuries, but not physical injuries. But this is what movie business is all about. The movie I'm doing, by the way, right now is called The Last Stand. And they jump off buildings and they drive cars more than 200 miles an hour. And they wipe out the bad guys. And of course, we use all kinds of special effects. But that is Hollywood fantasy, of course. And what we are dealing with here in this conference is reality. And it's serious reality. The reason why I'm saying serious reality, because the US Department of Energy reported just a few weeks ago that in 2010, the global output of carbon dioxide jumped by 6%. By 6%. The world pumped 500 million more tons of carbon dioxide into the air than it did in 2009. Now, I've played in action movies, I've played in comedies, but when it comes to the environment, this is drama. This is drama. Whether it will be tragic or redemptive remains to be seen. But clearly, global warming is the environment's last stand. But I don't want to talk about the seriousness of the science that brings us together here, because we all agree on that. Instead, I want to talk about 3 things. 1, our vision of a green future. 2, how do we sell that vision? And 3, how do we accomplish it? Let me begin with an analogy. A couple of weeks ago, I walked into this gallery in New Mexico where we are filming right now. A gallery that I've known for a long time, and I've bought there many sculptures and paintings and so on. And there I saw some wonderful pieces by a Native American sculptor named Michael Naranjo. Since I'd never heard of that artist before, I asked the gallery owner about him. The first thing she said was, he's blind. He was blinded in the Vietnam War and asked for some clay, for some putty, to occupy his time while he was recovering in his hospital bed. Today, his work is displayed all over the world. And let me tell you, he sculpts these beautiful figures of Native American warriors and eagles, which he can't see, but only feel. Now, that artist had vision. No eyesight, but vision. And he literally molded his vision into a bronze reality. So the question is, can we, like that artist, mold our positive vision into a green reality? So point number 1, if we're going to create a sustainable world, we need a vision. The foundation of a vision can be found all over the world. There are communities and there are states and countries and counties and provinces that have vision and refuse to be paralyzed by circumstances. In my native Austria, for instance, there's a town of about 4,000 people called Güssing, which 15 years ago couldn't even pay its power bill, which was 6 million euro. But Güssing didn't get the memo that the future had to be exactly the same as the present. Guess what they did? It made the decision to generate all of its own energy. Imagine the audacity it took to think that could be done. Güssing's mayor, Peter Vadage, developed policies after policies to encourage alternative energy. Today, the town doesn't import a single megawatt and doesn't rely on fossil fuel at all, but on clean, renewable energy.
Güssing became the first city in the world to boast total energy autonomy.
And because of that green commitment, the local economy is booming, with more than 50 companies coming to Güssing.
Companies have come to Güssing, which has created more than 1,000 jobs.
Now you may think 1,000 jobs, that's not that much. But for a town of 4,000 people, 1,000 jobs is a lot.
The result? The energy generated by the plants not only meets all the electricity needs of the local population, it is sufficient for half to be exported.
That 6 million euro power bill became a 14 million euro profit. So to me, that is great leadership. And I said to myself right away, and I called the mayor and I said, it's too bad that you, mayor, cannot run other things than this city of Güssing, like Greece or Italy. Wouldn't that be great? See, people like that should be running countries like that. That's right. So when the naysayers say we should wait to move forward with the green technology because of the economy, we can thank Mayor Vadage and Güssing for giving us a vision for what one town can do and what we all can do. Norway has a vision. Norway has a vision. You recently advanced your deadline from being carbon neutral from 2050 to 2030. Jump 20 years, boom. While others want to slow things down, here in Norway, you're speeding things up. And despite Norway being the world's 6th largest oil exporter, 99% of Norway's electricity comes from renewable energy, about 850 small hydroelectric plants scattered all over the country. And as a result, all of Norway's gas and most of its oil are exported. And I love that Norway has invested $3.1 billion of those oil revenues in clean energy in developing economies. Now, when I spoke at the United Nations not too long ago, which was in New York, I bragged about Norway. I bragged about you, all the stuff that you're doing, especially about the streetlights here in Oslo, because you've cut energy use by 70% by using efficient light bulbs and installing a smart system that uses lights only when it is needed. I wonder how much Paris, the city of lights, could save if it followed Oslo's example. I wonder how much Los Angeles would save, or New York, or Beijing, or Shanghai, or Moscow, or any of those cities. But for that you need vision. Now we in California also have vision, and we followed our vision. When I was elected governor in 2003, I told the people of California that it was possible to protect the environment and to pump up the economy. Some tried, of course, to dismiss that right away by saying Arnold is a Republican. He's a conservative, and he's driving those gas-guzzling Hummers. He's only saying those things because he wants to get elected. You know about his big ego. They couldn't believe that I wanted to protect the environment. And my Hummers, by the way, run on hydrogen fuel and on biofuel. But after I got elected, I told the people of California that when it comes to the environment, we shouldn't be talking about is he to the left or is he to the right, because there's only one direction to go, and it is forward. We have to march forward. And that's exactly what we have done in California. We moved forward. Right away after I came into office, we started building the hydrogen highway to build fueling stations for hydrogen-fueled cars. So no one can use the excuse anymore, we don't want to build any hydrogen-fueled cars because there are no fueling stations. So we started building hydrogen fueling stations all over the state of California. Then we added 1 million solar roofs. Then the Green Building Initiative to make all government buildings more energy efficient. Then the Renewable Portfolio Standard. Our goal was 20% by the year 2010, which we have reached. And now our goal is 33% by the year 2020. Then the Low Carbon Fuel Standard, the tailpipe emissions reductions, which was so successful that the Obama administration now adopted it on a national level. Now this is a perfect example of a regional government leading the way and the federal government following. And of course, AB 32, our historic climate change law, where we made a commitment to reducing our greenhouse gases by 25% by the year 2020 and 85% by the year 2050. And I should add that for decades, California has been working to be more energy efficient by establishing great partnerships with ordinary people. Because we believe very strongly that if the ordinary people out there buy into your policies, then you have a win in your hand. I mean, when we in California reach 110, 150 degrees, and we are reaching our capacity with our electricity, we put out the word to the people and say, cut back on your energy. And ordinary people participate in this effort. And as a result, California now is a remarkable 40% more energy efficient than the rest of the United States. As a matter of fact, if the rest of the United States had the same energy efficiency as California, we could literally close 75% of our coal-fired power plants. And that is an equivalent of taking 300 million cars off the road. Now, America only has 240 million cars, so think about that, 60 more million cars off the road. That's how much we would save on greenhouse gases. Now, these environmental policies did not destroy California's economy, quite the opposite. It didn't reduce our state to a hunter-gatherer society. The fact is, our economy kept booming. From 2003 to 2007, the first 4 years when I was in office, our economy grew from a $1.4 trillion GDP to a $1.8 trillion GDP, and we created more than 1 million new jobs. In 2007, of course, we all were hit by the global recession, and we lost some of those gains. But today, the brightest spot of California's economy is still our green sector, which has grown 10 times faster than any other sector since 2005. 1 in every 4 solar jobs in the US is in California. 1/3 of US clean tech venture capital flows into California. In 2009, a report from the University of Massachusetts found that clean energy investments generate more than 3 times as many US jobs as fossil fuel investments. And we have certainly found that to be true in California. As a matter of fact, our GDP now is $2.1 trillion. We gained during the recession $300 billion in our GDP. Now that's progress, and it's all because of our green companies. Our green companies are doing great things, like SolarZyme, a company in San Francisco that produces fuel from algae. They've been so successful that they signed a deal now with the US Navy to supply fuel for their fleet. And now the US Navy is so excited about going green that they made a commitment that half of the entire US Navy fleet will be powered by algae-based fuel by the year 2020. And then SolarZyme made a deal also with Continental and with United Airlines to sell 20 million gallons of algae-based fuel to them to mix it in with their fuel so they reduce their greenhouse gases. So there's actions all over the place, and all without this international agreement, may I remind you. And Bloom Energy created a fuel cell in California that takes customers off the grid. Some of the biggest companies like eBay are now using fuel cells to save money and to save energy. And electric car companies are coming to California, like Tesla and Coda and Vision Motors. They came to California because they understood and they believe in our vision. Our ports in Los Angeles, which are the largest in the United States, reduced pollution by 70%, often by doing just simple things like stopping the trucks from idling while they're waiting in line. Today, even the port's tugboats are hybrid. So in California, in Norway and in Güssing and in many other places around the world, we have a vision, and our vision is green. And this brings me to the second point that I wanted to make here today. How do we sell our green vision for the future? Now, I know a little bit about selling and about promoting, because that's what I've done all my life, with everything that I've done. That's what I did with bodybuilding. I didn't just lift weights, but I wanted to lift the entire sport. I wanted to make sure that everyone enjoys lifting and being fit and feeling strong. So I wrote books on fitness. I did documentaries, like Pumping Iron. Gave seminars, served on the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. Did anything and everything to teach people about fitness. I wanted to create a fitness revolution. And it worked. There are more gymnasiums today around the world than ever before. I did the same with movies. I promoted my movies not only in the United States, but worldwide. And I became the first actor to truly appreciate and to cash in on the global box office. And now I'm trying to promote an environmental vision, which I have to say is a little different than the vision many in the movement have been trying to sell. To start, I believe that doom and gloom never convinces anyone of anything. I mean, how many people do you think would buy movie tickets if they were told, oh, you're going to feel much worse when you come out of the theater than when you go in? Guilt also never convinces anyone of anything. Yet gloom and guilt seems to be a prime argument of so many environmentalists.
Global warming! It now appears that all rumors of global warming were true. We were warned this would happen, and we didn't listen. We didn't listen!
You can't tell someone who is worried about losing their jobs or barely holding on to their house or having a difficult time providing for their family that they should worry more about melting polar ice caps. And lecturing the developing world is not any more productive. There are people around the world who are just now arriving at the petroleum party. They are as intoxicated by the desire for electronics and automobiles as we are. And the worst thing we can do is act as if we are more enlightened beings that can judge what is right and wrong for other people. The worst thing we can say is, hey, you already been riding the bicycles over there in China for many years. Continue. It will be so much better for the environment while we continue driving our powerful cars. Imagine being handed the keys to your first car and then having someone tell you to leave it parked in the garage. Yet some in the green movement have tried exactly that, to deny the pride and happiness that people in India and in China are feeling in their new wealth and in their new lifestyle. See, that is not an effective communication strategy. We need to sell the benefits of a clean, green economy so that we can create advocates, not opponents, who resent our double standard. They know, because they're not stupid, they know that we, the developed world, have been driving cars for the last 100 years. They know that we have been using fossil fuels for the last 100 years and enjoyed its benefits. And they know also we in the developed world have been actually the ones responsible for polluting the world. So rather than telling them not to do something, we should say, enjoy your rising prosperity. And you know what? You will enjoy your future even more with electric cars, with hydrogen cars, or alternative vehicles. Yes, enjoy your better life, but you will enjoy it more if you use the energy above the ground rather than below the ground. That's what we should be telling them. So it's all about communication. It's all about communication. If I go to my wife and I tell her, hey, I have some Austrian friends over, I want you to make Wiener Schnitzel tonight. I expect the best Wiener Schnitzel. She would say, go to hell. But if I say, Maria, you know how you always make the best Wiener Schnitzels? Better than my own mother made? Could you do that tonight? Because I have some friends coming over, I want to show off a little bit. She would be delighted to do that. See, it's all about how you communicate. That's what it's all about. And what's also important when we talk about communication is that we should communicate more rounded, like a four-legged stool. Because up until now, we've been using a wobbly one-legged stool, which is climate change. Climate change, which clearly is not holding us. So one leg should be climate change. Yes, we should continue talking about it, but let's use also the other three legs. The second leg ought to be jobs. Let's talk about the jobs. Everyone loves to have a job. No matter where you go in the world, people like to work. As we've seen in California and elsewhere, a green economy is a growing economy that creates more jobs. So let's talk about that. Who could be against that? And the third leg ought to be national security. People are always concerned about national security. For decades, industrialized democracies have been in a terrible position of having to purchase oil from foreign countries. And I'm not talking about purchasing from oil from Norway or from Mexico or Brazil or so on. I'm talking about from countries that you don't want holding that power to cut off your supplies or to disrupt your economies. Now, you know what countries I'm talking about, of course. And the fourth leg ought to be health. We never talk enough about health. Pollution kills, it debilitates. One study estimated that a staggering 40% of deaths worldwide are caused by air, water, and soil pollution. In the US alone, 100,000 people a year die from pollution-related illnesses, which is more than the combined number of traffic deaths, suicides, homicides, and the military fatalities in Afghanistan and in Iraq. Think about the amount of people that die from pollution. So why aren't people protesting in the streets about the death from pollution like they do about war? Because we are not communicating it the right way. Clean energy can save millions and millions of lives, and it's our job to get that message out there. As a matter of fact, I think the other side is doing a better job in communicating. Those who support the status quo, those who want to continue polluting and polluting, have a very simple argument and a very simple message. They go straight for the gut, appealing to the people's survival instincts, that the only safe course is to do nothing. That if you go green, your economy will crash and you will lose your job. And everything will become more expensive and your power bill, your energy bill will skyrocket. So people get scared. They say, oh my God, that's what it takes? That's what I will get when I go green? Oh, I'm not going to go green? See, that's how simple they communicate. We should do just as simple as they do and as straightforward as they do. And talk to the people about things that really matter to them. Talk about the jobs. Talk about health. Talk about national security. Talk about things that matter rather than talking to them about beetle-infested trees in Colorado or the rising sea levels and melting ice caps. So many people don't get that and they don't even believe in it. So let's talk about things that they can relate to. You can have the best product in the world, ladies and gentlemen, the best product in the world, but if you don't sell it well, if you don't communicate well, you have nothing. No one will buy it. Ladies and gentlemen, right now the environmental movement is just not doing as great a job as they could with selling and promoting our green energy future. Now, I'm not trying to be critical of the environmental movement because all of the things that we have accomplished in California and that we have accomplished nationally and internationally is because of the environmentalists and of their great work. But I have to say, when it comes to selling our green future, they're not doing as great a job as they could, and I think we have to improve on that. And the third and the last thing I want to discuss here today is how do we accomplish our vision? First of all, I find it ridiculous that some people feel that an international agreement is the only answer to solving our problems. I mean, here we are year after year waiting for the sequel to the Kyoto Treaty. Now, coming from the movie business, I love sequels. I've made a lot of money from sequels, many millions of dollars, but that's not the only way to move things forward and to make our vision become a reality. Let's not just always wait for that. People always say, we need an international agreement, we need an international agreement. I'm the first one to acknowledge the importance of a meaningful pact, but what I'm saying is it's not the only way. And we also can't afford anymore to wait for that paperwork. We can't put all of our eggs into one basket. And we don't have to wait. California didn't wait. I mean, do you think we would wait for Washington? I mean, Washington is asleep at the wheel. We would never wait for anyone that cannot get a budget going for 3 years. Never. So we moved forward alone. California took leadership. We moved forward. In Norway, you didn't wait. You decided to be carbon neutral 20 years earlier. Mayor Vadash didn't wait with Gussing either. Remember, the most powerful movements in human history did not start at the top. They started as grassroots operations. The American Civil Rights Movement, for instance, didn't start at the top. The women's suffrage movement, they gave women the right to vote in America. The anti-apartheid movement, they didn't start at the top. No, this movement started at the bottom and they worked their way up. The movement towards a clean, green future is no different. And in order to empower this subnational approach that I'm talking about, which I felt always very passionate about, we even launched the R20 in my last year in office, which brings together regional governments, community organizations, corporations, and educational institutions to create green progress around the world. So we don't have to rely on wait for these national and international agreements. In this way, we can address climate issues from two directions, from the bottom up and from the top down. And one day, the two movements will meet in the middle and achieve critical mass. Now, to appreciate the power of the grassroots that I've been talking about, look at the cell phones, the mobile phones. I remember that when I bought the first mobile phone 20-some years ago, it was $1,600. And when I held it in my hand, I felt like I was holding a brick in my hand. This is how big it was. The next version was much smaller and much cheaper, went down to $1,200. And then the 750, I remember the last phone I bought for my daughter was less than $100. And when I visited Nigeria earlier this year, gave a speech down there, everyone I saw had a cell phone. As a matter of fact, some people told me that they even had 2 or 3 because the costs have dropped and almost everyone now can afford a cell phone. And you know what? Governments had absolutely nothing to do with that. Nothing. I don't remember, maybe you do, but I don't remember any governments or anyone around the world saying that in 2010, we want more than 4 billion people to be able to reach each other by mobile phone. Was there any agreement like that? I don't remember. You see what I'm saying? But that's exactly what happened. The mobile phone network spread organically. No one shamed anyone into giving up anything. That is how revolutions happen. Some passion, some desire, some need ignites a movement. Governments ideally work together with the private sector to establish consistent, smart policies. And innovators develop then the technology to move things forward and to turn those policies into reality. I believe that the environmental movement will have its own Arab Spring and throw off the status quo. And it will probably surprise us in how it happens. No doubt, we will be looking one way and it will happen another way, just like with the cell phones or with Facebook. For example, just a couple of weeks ago in Fortune magazine, I saw a fascinating article. An article entitled, "The Business of Cooling the Planet." And the subtitle said, "Climate scientists and billionaire backers like Bill Gates are trying to turn down the global thermostat and make money doing it." The article noted the startup companies are working on capturing the carbon dioxide from the air because, believe it or not, the demand for CO2 far exceeds the supply. So imagine making a profit on taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. It is based on technology, it's based on economics, and yes, it is based on hope. So the bottom line is, if we have a vision, the day we long for doesn't have to be as distant as many people think. In Proverbs 29:18 it says, without a vision, the people perish. Now I might want to improve a little bit up in the Bible here. My addition will be to the Proverbs, without a vision the people perish, but with a vision the people flourish. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I believe that our people can flourish. I believe our economies can flourish. I believe we can shape the world to meet our green vision. And I believe if we keep our eye on the ball, if we keep our eye on our vision and keep moving forward, what now seems impossible will become inevitable. So thank you for inviting me. Thank you for your kind attention, and thank you for your warm hospitality. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know we will. Thank you very much.
And if I have to carry around a sign saying, help the deaf, the dumb, and the blind, I've got your love and you know you got mine. We're gonna make it. I know you